The New Champion of Shazam, issue 2. Josie Campbell writing with Doc Shaner on the art. Really liked issue 1 of this. Was excited to get issue 2. And this might be even better than issue 1. Is my summation of it quickly.
This could end up being my favorite Shazam story of all time.
Woo!
If it keeps the quality, the stuff that it's doing with Mary, just because I get where her character's at here as like the put upon oldest kid, and maybe I'm just reading too much into it, as you know, that's how I felt my whole life. You know, her feeling the responsibility for the rest of the kids.
I said this after issue 1. I'm sad this is only 4 issues, and I really hope it gets a sequel, because it feels like it's really setting up a great new status quo for these characters. And it starts with this it's like a commercial for this community college that Mary's going to have to go to now, because she has to go back home, because she has to be the guardian. She has to, because she's 18, she has to look after the other kids now. Because that was the cliffhanger, was because the Vasquezes are missing.
I also love that it's Fawcett Community College. Anytime they can work the original city from Shazam in there.
Yeah, nice. So the parents went missing on their way home after dropping her off at the train station, and she talks to the police about it, and she sees the kids. It sort of reaffirms that Billy's not there, and some of the other status quos that are going on. But Darla's excited that she's back. She's happy that the bunny's there, Hoppy's there, and that's like a running gag, is that Hoppy keeps sneaking into Mary's backpack throughout the issue. The art
and
here,
her always being surprised is a great joke.
Oh yeah, and the art here is great. There's a great face on Mary. It's after she's talking to Pedro, who's kind of like confrontational with her a little bit.
Yeah,
and he leaves. At the bottom of this, Darla says something like, "Oh, you after we find Mom and Dad, you can stay here and we'll be together. We're always supposed to be." And because she knows she actually wants to leave as soon as she like finds them and solves all this problem again, the look in her face in the bottom of that page, that last panel is wonderful. This sort of oh shucks kind of how do I break this to her kind of face, fantastic. Shaner is on fire, and Josie Campbell, for a writer I don't think I'd heard of before issue 1 of this. I really like her voice for these characters, and just I love the clean look of the art. Everything about it it feels like it's got a vibe where the art and the writing are just marrying perfectly.
They work together so well.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. So she runs into Eugene, because Eugene's actually taking some early college classes, because he's he's like a brainchild, and she's a little offended when he's like, maybe don't talk to me when we're I've got a new reputation as being like this cool smart kid, so because I'm hanging out with all these college students.
He's the high school kid.
Jesus, man.
I'm so sorry. He's the high school kid that I'm sure they're all being nice to him, but he has an inflated ego. Right, because they all think he's a genius, which I thought was pretty funny. Because it's starting to feel like each of the kids are kind of falling into those kind of 7 Deadly Sins vibes of each of the, which is a good villain or like an original villain of Captain Marvel / Shazam. And I felt the pride coming through Eugene here.
Yeah, no, I loved it. This issue, obviously, last issue was so Mary focused, but this issue gets to bring in a lot of the other kids, and we get a kind of sense of them right now. So I'm glad that they're still part of the world, but you have this thing where Mary is the only one with the powers now. The rest of the kids don't have that anymore. So, I think that's really cool. So when she's in class and the lecturers try to talk about stuff, there's a car accident outside, and Mary runs off to go be a superhero, as you do. And it's a giant alligator who, after the first time she punches it, which is it's a great panel of her punching this alligator. It's like an uppercut. It's great stuff. The alligator sprouts wings. This giant alligator sprouts wings and starts flying around. And so we get like a scene where she's flying through the sky after this alligator. It's very pulpy. It's very silly, but very fun. I love that panel where it connects to the bank robbers from the last issue, because it's being controlled by the same sort of phone app thing. But there's a great panel where she's standing like right in front of the alligator. So it's got this perspective thing where she's just right in front of the nose, and the alligator's looking right at us effectively. Really good stuff. And then like these villains that either are also controlled or part of what's going on and behind the alligator attack show up and fight Mary, and they've got electric powers, and they end up frying poor Hoppy. And for the rest of the issue, like you see Hoppy burned and singed and like, you know, barely moving, and Mary's like holding him and saying, "Are you okay?" and like hugging the bunny in her arms. It's hard not to feel things during all this.
Well, and the way that she says, "Oh, Hoppy," and then she hugs him, I was just like, oh man, I really care about this rabbit.
Yeah, it's all really good. It makes you hate the villains, who are basically just in silhouette, except these like phone lights on their chest.
Yeah, and it seems like they're marrying technology and magic, because they're using these phones, right? And like we find out that this crocodile or alligator creature is saying, "Help me," right? And he has one of those things in him. And it's just like, well, yeah, what's going on? Because then when they close the loop, right, like it fries her magic. So there's like big things going on here.
Yeah. So yeah, it means that it's something that she's going to have a tough time fighting. It won't just be easy. Yeah. So it gives her a challenge, it gives her something to overcome, which is good. The next little thread that's introduced is that the press come up and talk to her, and they're like, "Oh, you're a new superhero," and I'm like, "Well, she's not really. She's kind of been around, but whatever." And she says, "Oh, like, are you part of a team? What is your name?" Like, and asks a bunch of questions, and Mary like panics and just says she has to go. And the issue ends with her noticing that there's a lot of missing people in the neighborhood, and it's not just her parents that are gone. And it sort of ends with her sort of, you know, a call to action that she has to not only find her foster parents, but find everyone who's missing, and that there's something really bad going on. So this is a good issue because it puts her back in her own community. It puts her back in with her family of characters that she cares about, and then by the end establishes that the stakes are higher than it just being a personal thing, and she has to actually become a hero now. It's like, it's one thing like, oh, she hears a car accident, she has to go off and like save some lives who are in jeopardy. It's another thing to notice that something's wrong and actively seek it out and try and solve the crime or the problem, solve the mystery, you know. So I dug it. I love Mary getting the spotlight. I think it's great. And you know, her becoming this kind of, she's always been the bigger sister, but this idea that she's becoming the actual guardian of the other kids is really cool.
Yeah, because Billy does a lot of that heavy lifting when he's, you know, Shazam, right? That he gets to be the guardian of them, and now she actually has to, and she has to step up, and her trying to balance her, you know, her future, and you know, while also doing this is a nice twist, because I feel like everyone's been at that point in their lives where like they want to go on to different things, but they also feel that tug to back to their old life.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, part of what the story is here. It's about Mary's coming of age as well, and like, you know, so many people want to do things when they reach this kind of age, but maybe can't because they can't afford it or because there's circumstances that don't let them do what they want. So there's kind of this sort of metaphor of responsibility and like, you know, creeping in. So I am curious to see how, when it ends, like what the final messaging and where it leaves her off.
Yeah.
But I'm loving it, and I really do hope that there's more of it after this 4-issue mini. In some way, you know, a sequel miniseries, whatever it is. Yeah.
And just Shayna's art is so crisp, and it just matches the tone of the characters.
It's a joy to look at. And I think Shayna's flatter colors and like solid line work is very good for something that wants to feel pulpy and Silver Age.
Yep.
And Shazam, by its nature, because of the type of characters it has, kind of lends itself to that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
loving it.
Yeah.
All right, what are you giving Shazam, or new champion of Shazam, I should say?
I'm giving this one a 9.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Straight 9 from me as well. I think it's an excellent comic book. And if you have any kind of like, you know, loving your heart for these characters, but even if you don't, I think it may make you like Mary Marvel. It might make you like this you know, section of the DC universe. One that's solely, you know, been underrepresented for a long time, really.
Very long time.
So
and then it's been like starts and stops as far as I can remember. Yeah, so that's why when I say like it's my favorite Shazam story I can remember, it's just because it's been, you know, so inconsistent. And I tend to like more than I don't.
When I say it's been underrepresented, I'm including when it had a book, because you know when it had a book, it only lasted like 16 issues or whatever, and it was delayed a lot. There was a lot of problems, you know, in terms of that were creeping in, you know, so on. We had the backups in New 52, but you know, like Shazam has been so off and on for such a long time, and I think part of it is struggling to find its identity when, you know, the powers can be compared to Superman, and I think that was a problem they faced for a long time at DC. Was how do we separate Shazam from Superman and sort of make it have its own identity? And I do think books like this nail it and nail what's different about these characters. But I think for a long time that was like a problem, and I think it was so like ignored for such a long time that it just became more and more of a niche character, where a Shazam book is never going to sell like, you know, the big characters. Not without, like, I don't think the current movies that are coming out obviously are good enough to do it. I think if there was an excellent movie and then you had like a good like all-star creative team do a book whilst the interest was high, maybe you could elevate it to that status. But you know, I've seen it done from time to time. You know, Jeff Johns elevated Green Lantern, for example, but that's like the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, but even then, like, Green Lantern had the whole Kyle stuff before they relaunched the Hal stuff under Johns, you know, so they had a pretty consistent like footprint, even in the comics. So whereas I feel like with Shazam, like, he was only really in Justice Society, like when I can go back and think.
In the 2000s, I mean, I'm sure there was a couple of minis somewhere, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm happy to have this. I really like Mary, like coming from 52. Her story through that was one of my favorites. So, yeah.
That's cool. Cool. But there you go. That's a new champion of Shazam. It's very good.